All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 455 of the Restoring Rapport podcast. This is a podcast for young believers who are pursuing the goal of healthy marriage and family and trying to get married as young as possible in a healthy way according to God's design. My name is Seth Hensley. I come on this show twice a week, every week on Thursday and Sunday to discuss not only the benefits of getting married young, but I try to equip and encourage you in your pursuit of those goals. And today we're going to be reviewing a modern wisdom clip between Chris Williamson and Brett Cooper, and they're going to be talking about a woman who has just made some decisions, just like everybody else in the world, that have kind of impacted the course of her life. And a lot of times in today's world, getting married and having children and settling down, so to speak, are presented and portrayed as a less than the best way to live your life in favor of other options like sowing your wild oats, wild sexual experimentation, individualistic expression, autonomous, doing whatever you want, personal career advancement, things like that. And that is, in my opinion, such a big lie that's hurting young people. And if we really ask ourselves, what is a way that yields better fruit? What's a way that you know, increases personal happiness in the long run, serves to better, impact the world at large and especially those people around you. I think marriage and family comes up on top every time. And so we're going to be talking about that today. I'm going to put up the clip for you guys now on your screen. If you're not watching on YouTube, please go watch on YouTube. Our content is getting much better there, and you really are missing out on a lot of the podcast experience if you do not have the visuals that we're producing. So go check out our YouTube channel. Again, it's just Seth Hensley. Just look up Seth Hensley on YouTube. It has a yellow background, like the podcast color background. That's the channel that you'll want to follow. But without further ado, let's go ahead and hear what Brett Cooper's describing, how Brett Cooper describes this woman's story.
2022. I believe her husband was Morgan Evans. They got married young. They had a very, very public breakup, and she wrote an EP about it that basically exploded her career. And she was always like a relatively okay, well-known country singer. Like I listened to her growing up, but she was nothing huge. This took her mainstream. She wrote an incredibly raw EP about her divorce. And in one song, I think it was Blind Side, Blind Spot, something like that, she talks about one of the reasons for their divorce was that he was ready to settle down and have kids. He's 7 years older than her, and she wasn't. And she wanted to focus on her career. And he had had a bit more of a successful career at the beginning of their marriage. She was, sort of catching up. She was not ready for that. And they publicly talked about this. She gave interviews. She actually went on Call Her Daddy. And she said the children conversation was it. And they apparently went out to dinner. And she told her then husband, my 30th birthday present to myself and us is going to be I'm going to freeze my eggs. Because I know I'm not ready, but I know you want to have kids, and I'm going to freeze my eggs. And her husband was like, absolutely not. Like, I want to have children now. I am ready to settle down. So they split up.
So
and
she was 30, he was 37.
I believe so, yes.
Right.
Or she was 29, about to turn 30 when they got divorced. And it also seems like maybe they weren't super compatible. There were other things there, but that was the crux. So now she's had this incredible success. It has been this wild ride. She's dating the guy from Outer Banks. They had this, fairy tale love story. She's writing all these songs about him. She's winning all of these awards. She's very much in, she's just, exploded out of Nashville country, and now she is extremely mainstream. She released a surprise single.
Okay, before we get any further into this, just pause here. And if you've listened to this show for any length of time, you probably know what I'm going to say next. And that is this entire situation was preventable. Okay, this did not have to happen. Just by having a few conversations on the front end instead of the back end, they could have completely prevented even the need for this divorce. Okay, because both of these people, in my opinion, prior to getting engaged or even dating, should have had some conversations about, let's say, something big like children, whether or not you want to have children. Okay, and then based on how those conversations went, you would have then made a hopefully more informed decision about whether or not this is somebody that you should spend the rest of your life with. Okay. And obviously, I think that having children is definitely the road that God has called the majority of young people for. I don't think that most believers are not like Paul, and they are not given the gift of singleness to remain unmarried without harmful consequence and not miss out on anything that God has designed them for. Most young people are actually intended by God to get married, and it's not good that most of them should be alone. Okay. And so just by having that conversation on the front end, they could have prevented Well, I mean, I'm not saying the marriage would have succeeded because there could have been a billion other issues. I'm just saying, like, all of these issues that people give as the reason their divorce ended, that's really not the reason their divorce ended. Okay. It might be a problem because they clearly didn't discuss it prior to getting married because he wanted to have children and she didn't. And, they were not on the same page about that, evidently, even though they're supposed to be closer to each other than anybody else in the whole world. So for some reason, they didn't have that conversation before they tied the knot. And probably because some other disconnection issues and the fact that they entered a relationship with somebody that's clearly not on the same page with them on some pretty major stuff. That's why I would say their marriage blew up. Okay. And so I would just encourage you today, you can be the kind of person who covers these issues before you jump into the relationship and talks about the things you need to talk about and covers the issues you need to cover before you even get into this dating relationship. Okay. And so I would encourage you to do that. Because man, if you wait and then handle the issues after, now you're stuck. Okay. And now there are some major issues that could have been prevented entirely if you just put a little bit more wisdom and foresight into the front end of this relationship. Okay, so let's continue though and see what else happens.
5 days ago called I Sit in Parks. And the entire story there is that she goes, what the song says, she goes and she sits in parks and she watches families have picnics and play with their kids.
Dang.
Swinging on swings, and she's sitting there hitting her vape and saying, she literally talks about that, and saying, I want that, and is it too late?
How old is she now?
33.
Wow. Is she still with the guy? The
The
new guy?
Outer Banks guy?
Yeah.
They broke up, but then they got back together. It was this whole thing. They were spotted
Tumultuous.
yeah.
Okay, so she traded in the stable marriage for the tumultuous fling, is what it kind of sounds to me like happened. And she did so because she didn't want to have children, which to me is a bad reason for leaving something that you should have never left to begin with. Not just because you gave your vows, but because it's a, you know, definitionally better living situation than a tumultuous fling situation is. Okay. If you want the best romantic situation possible, marriage is your key. Marriage is your way to go. Okay. If you want a second rate, emotionally high and emotionally low kind of relationship where you don't know if it's going to be around tomorrow, you don't know if your partner is as invested as you are, you don't know if there's infidelity or cheating going on, you don't know how to define the relationship, you don't know what the future of your relationship is, then these kind of flings are your way to go, in my opinion. And I'm kind of using harsh language here, but that really is what it comes down to. And then you see her now, self-admittedly saying through her new song, I'm wishing I had now what I left my last marriage to avoid. That's really what she's saying, and she's saying that while coping, using a coping mechanism that is destroying her lungs. Okay, so what's my point here? Like, my point here is, guys, like, I don't know how many, like, okay, there's a way that God has designed to lead to human happiness and flourishing. You don't get to choose what leads to human happiness and human flourishing. You get to either submit to the way that God has designed you to have happiness and flourishing, or you can rebel and choose to go without human happiness and flourishing that God has designed you to have. That's really your options. Okay. And I'm always so saddened by the number of people who choose to go down the road that leads to death, the wide gate that leads to destruction. Like, what is so bad about marriage and family that you want to chase all these other things and avoid it? Like, I don't understand. And I think what it is it's trauma. I think it's trauma. People, because they've been fed false narratives about what marriage and family are and what having children is, they've actually believed these narratives, and they have perceived other ways of living as being superior because they've believed these false narratives about marriage and family. Okay. And so I would just encourage you, take marriage and family advice from somebody who actually has a good marriage and family. If you're only listening to people talk about marriage who have had a poor marriage experience, or same thing with children, then you're not going to have a great view of it, especially if you've been raised by somebody like that. Okay. And so I don't know. How many people do we have to see become saddened at the point when they can't have children and it's too late? for them to have children? How many women do we have to see like heartbroken that they did not make a choice earlier in their life to have children before we realize, hang on, maybe I should be pursuing marriage and family earlier than I am? How many people do we have to see, who are past the point of no return? Like, she said she froze her eggs. Like, okay, you can freeze your eggs. There's no guarantee that'll work. Like, as you get older, your odds of conceiving do go down. It doesn't matter how you cut it. Doesn't matter if you freeze your eggs or anything. Okay, and it also ups your chances of having, you know, traumatic birth consequences too, and it becomes harder on your body to do what your body's clearly designed to do at a younger age. All right, and so I don't know. I'm just like, we just need to see the warning flags, guys. We need to see the warning flags and make decisions accordingly. And I'm so sad to see people continue to do this. Now, maybe this is just a pop culture story, and the actual general population is waking up to this reality and choosing a different road. Um, but I hate to see people with a platform making this mistake. Okay, it's very sad.
Tumultuous
s-
bullshit. It's
there
not the
was-
same as being in a relationship with a guy that
Yes.
you were going to get married to.
They were, but they were for like 2.5 years, and then they had a bit of a breakup. Now it seems like they might be back together. But she released the song, and she's saying, "I sit in parks, and I wonder if this mom wants my freedom like I want to be a mother, and I wonder if it's too late."
Wow.
And she says, "Rolling Stone says that I'm on the right path, but I wonder if I've, sacrificed my future." And then at the end, she's kind of like, "Oh well, this is the life that I've created for myself." And she goes, "My friend is due in March, my album's due in April, so I'll go refill my Lexapro, and I'll get back to work." And it is so incredibly wrong. But
Gosh.
it's the timeline of that. That she was divorced only 3 years ago because she wasn't ready to have kids. She had this mountain of success, everything that she wanted, and now she's sitting here and going, shit. Like, did I wait too long? And I'm guessing that she wrote this when she and the boyfriend were on a break, whatever it was. But the women who are relating to that, if you look on social media, the success of the song, I mean, the comments are heartbreaking. It's all these women going, "I don't know if I made the right decision. I thought I did all the right things. I focused on my career. I've emphasized, that. I haven't found a..."
Independence, financial security.
Yep.
Look, I mean, it's kind of trite to say it because I've talked about it so much, so have you. But I do think we're getting into a slight new era now, which is asking the question, is there a way to shortcut the unteachable lesson of financial independence will not give you the sense of belonging that you want as a young woman?
Mm-hmm.
And I understand that it feels very safe and secure rather than having yourself be a financial prisoner of some guy.
Yep.
I mean, women out-earn men up to the age of like 30 or 31.
Mhm.
Okay, stop. Financial prisoner of some guy? What? Like, okay, you choose who you marry. You choose who you marry. How is that? I don't know how you find yourself in a situation where you feel like that, barring just complete lack of wisdom. Like okay, financially dependent on some guy. How is it? Okay, first of all, that's the independent bull crap again. Like, independence is not some amazing thing. You all need people. Everybody listening to this needs people for lots of different things. You can't eat without a grocery store, in all likelihood, unless you're a homesteader, which I highly doubt. Okay? You can't get paid without a job. You need your friends to have fun. Dude, you need your sexuality requires another person. Like, this I don't know how we got to the point as a culture where we consider ourselves independent from other people. Like, you're never going to be independent from other people. You are designed by God to need other people. And so I don't see why it's such like a nightmare for people to depend on other people for things. And the second thing he said was and I'm not saying he said this was a good thing. He's just talking in the shoes of these women here. But he said that these women are perceiving themselves as financial prisoners of their husband. It's like, okay, if you choose, let's take some personal responsibility here. You choose who you marry. Okay? You choose who you marry. If you choose who you marry, then maybe it's kind of, I'm not trying to throw shade or blame here. I'm just saying, let's take some personal responsibility. If you're reaping some poor consequences for a marriage, you entered that marriage. I mean, how are you a prisoner? If you're a prisoner, you jumped in of your own choosing. You went to jail of your own choosing. Okay. Um, And I'm just like, it, I don't. Marriage is a beautiful thing because it enables women to not have to work. Okay, Jeremy Pryor has this great quote where he says, "I am a full supporter of an 18-year maternity leave paid for by marriage," which is exactly what moms have the opportunity to have here through the nuclear family setup. Okay, what other setup enables you to have, food, water, shelter, the comforts of home without you even having to go out and scrape a living off the rocks? Like, seriously, somebody else is doing it for you. I think that's a great setup. Now, maybe you're like, okay, well, and I think it goes back to this big lie that we have sold young women that working is somehow some awesome thing. Listen, my wife hates going to work, and she has a great job. Man, she can go in whenever she wants as long as she gets her patients done, her people treated, her therapy done. And she doesn't have to worry about being there at a certain time. They're very flexible. If she doesn't go in on one day, she can go in the next day. Like, she has a great job. She makes what I do, and she has a 2-year degree instead of a 4-year degree. So I mean, like, that's amazing. That's an incredible job that you can just go to school for a couple of years for and get that job. All right. But she's not happy doing that long term. Like, she's miserable. She hates waking up early and like going out and dealing with people who are just such bad people to her. Like, they just these some of these people that she deals with are just like rude. They're just disrespectful. They're rude. They're entitled. They think and I'm not nothing bad against. I'm not saying anything bad against them. That's not my point. My point is, through marriage, she has the opportunity, and she's taking this opportunity. She has literally she's filed her resignation. She's done. She wanted to work for a time to get some extra money so we could spend it on some things and save up for some things. And now that we have those things, it's like, why am I? She's like, why am I here? I'm going to stay home and spend time with my kid that we're having May 31st. And I think she's just making such a wise move. Like, let me just brag on her for a second. I think my wife sees wisdom. Like, she is not buying this bull crap that's being pushed at her by people that are, I think, going to wake up in a very sad situation 10 years from now. Okay. And so I would just encourage you guys, whoever has the better argument is the person that you need to listen to. And the people that are pushing you to, like, live it up and sow your wild oats and do your sexual experimentation and not have kids and not get married if you don't want to, and be independent and you don't need people, and don't invest in any kind of permanent romantic relationship. All that stuff is just like, ask yourself, are those people happy? Are those people happy? Look at their life. Are they happy? Like, my wife is, and I may just talk for myself. Like, I'll talk for myself now because I'm talking about personal happiness. I have never been more happy than I am right now. Okay. And I am sitting in a permanent marriage that has a child coming into it, where my wife is quitting work, and I've never been more happy. Okay. So I would just encourage you that there is a way that leads to happiness. There is a way that God's designed to lead to happiness. And it is not what modern culture, at least the mainstream culture, is pushing on you necessarily. Okay. Let's continue.
Still at the
Yeah.
moment by a couple of grand a year. So I think that's really an issue, at least to that point.
That's
But
something they're concocting up in their minds.
to a degree, yeah. Or that you wouldn't be able to go back to work, you wouldn't be able to go back to your career. I think that paternity problem, maternity.
Okay, that's another thing. You can always go back to work. You can't always go back to trying to have children because your body is on a timer. Like, one of these things is a limited time window, one of them is not. You can always go back to work. You cannot always have children. And you attack me there. Well, my aunt had a kid at 45. Like, okay, there's always an exception. Like, there's always an exception. But, like, it becomes much harder for you to have children later in life. And so, if that's the case, there is a limited window on one, there's not a limited window on another. I think that's something to consider here.
I get it, all of those issues, but asking yourself the question, like, is it actually worth it to avoid the very thing that most women have been working toward. Like, what's the financial independence for? Just to like Chelsea handle your way through the rest of life? I don't
basically.
think that that's the case. And
It's an FU to men.
yeah. I'm going to
It's saying,
ass-
I don't need you.
well, it's
Yeah.
assuring your failure
Yeah.
privately to be able to stick the middle finger up at men publicly. Yeah, I don't need you. I will be a miserable flag bearer for this movement. But it's
No,
just
I don't think that's the only reason. I think some women actually think it's a better life to have that extra income and be able to do with that income with whatever you want. Like the dual income, no kids movement is kind of big. And I mean, sure, that might be fun, but I would argue it's not very fulfilling and you're not leaving any type of lasting footprint on the world after you die. So, I mean, if you're content with that, go ahead. But I don't think that's a very, medium to long term satisfaction goal that actually yields good fruit. Like that's maybe fun in the short term, instant gratification type thing, but that's not an investment. Okay. That's not an investment. That's just working for pleasures that are immediately gone kind of thing. Okay. And I think some women buy that. Now, I think other women, like he's talking about, are kind of sticking the middle finger up at men here and just saying, I don't need you. And it's the whole independence thing. And we've already talked about that. And I hate to tell you this, but you do still need people. No matter how much you think you don't, you do still need people. Like, I don't know, like who keeps your electric on? Who made the car that you drive? Who put your house up? You didn't do all those things. You might have done one. You certainly didn't do them all. Like we are very socially interdependent creatures, and I'm not just slamming the women here. Like the men, this is the exact same thing to you. You need other people desperately. You cannot do your life without other people. Your life is made possible by other people. The Bible says that you live and have and move and have your being because of God. In God, you live and move and have your being. Like you, who created you? Your parents created you. You wouldn't even be here without somebody else, guys. You wouldn't even be here. Like I just don't. I don't get the whole independence thing. I don't think it's some. It's definitely not something worth striving towards, especially because it's an impossible goal and it leaves you more lonely in the end. Like it's actually a good thing to need people. Like what would you imagine what your life would be like if you didn't need anybody and you did everything by yourself? It would be super lonely. I mean, like, come on, what in the world?
it's a really unpopular perspective to take. So the fact that the comments was sort of with other women who had done the same thing, but the it's kind of the same as being body positive. It's like it's toxic empathy.
Yes.
That it's the optics of this argument are much more sexy than the reality of it. Right? The optics of the argument are you don't need a man. You are enough as you are already. You don't need to wait to be chosen by him. In fact, you don't need to be chosen at all. You and your friends and your girlies and your vibrator are enough to get you through the next however many decades of your life. And
okay, I think he's got a point here too. And let me just say, I think as a man, when I hear, I hear other guys say things like, "Yeah, man, we don't need women. We enough. We got you. You don't need a woman to be happy." I'm like, but the way guys say it, they literally, it's only a joke because they know that's absolute bullcrap. We absolutely need women to be happy. Like, I'm telling you, like seriously, this wouldn't work. This kind of messaging would not work to men. I don't think. At least it wouldn't work to me. Let me talk for myself. It wouldn't work for me. Because if somebody told me, "Hey, dude, you don't need no woman," like if let's say I like was let's like a young dude out there, he's heartbroken, he went through a breakup or something, and somebody comes up to him and goes, "Ah, it's all right, man. You don't need a woman to be happy." He would know that was a joke because he knows he needs a woman to be happy. I mean, and like we're not even ashamed of it. Like I think my wife is so beautiful and so amazing. Like there's no way I don't need her. There's no way I don't need her. I can't have children without her. I can't have a healthy sexual life without her. I can't have somebody to have emotional intimacy with and closeness with, and somebody to go through the hard times of life with without her. My life literally is awful without her. Okay. And that's how much God has designed you to need your partner. And so I just think it's funny because, like, if somebody were to try to push this narrative on me that he's describing right now, I would just laugh. I would just literally laugh. I'd be like, I don't need a woman my foot. Like, what do you mean? That's like the only thing I need. I need that more than I need food, dude. Like, I just think it's hysterical. Like that this narrative is even still around because of how preposterous it is. Like, at least that's how I am. Like maybe you're different, but like I really just laugh at stuff like this because of how funny it is. Like how absurd. This statement like that is.
Maybe he'll come along, but if he doesn't, you don't need to worry. And like that is a really supportive and caring message if you take it without the sort of militant anti-men perspective on it,
Yes.
which is you are enough as you are. And wouldn't that be a wonderful place to get into a relationship from
Yep.
as opposed to one from
So that
desperation?
you're sharing it with somebody.
Yeah.
Okay, you're not enough as you are, though. I would disagree with that. Like, you're not enough as you are. There's a lot of things about us, all of us, that need changed. Scripture says, "For all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God." Right? Like where do we get the arrogance of saying that we don't, nothing about us needs changed? That is arrogance. That's pride. That's what that is. That is 100% pride. Um, Thinking that there's nothing about you that's a problem. I mean, how narcissistic? What? Like, guys, there's things about all of us that are very ugly. Okay, they're very not attractive. They're very sinful. Like, it's our job to acknowledge that. Step number one, and then take God's prescribed road for solving that. That's step number two. Okay, if you get stuck on step one, I mean, you can. I mean, first of all, nobody will want to be around you. I mean, I get immediately turned off by ideologies that suggest that you are all that you need and there's nothing wrong with you and you're perfect just the way that you are, because of how nobody likes to be around arrogant people, and it also enables you to stay in a dysfunctional functional situation longer, which makes my life more miserable being around you. Like, imagine being around somebody who thinks that it's always somebody else's fault and I have no responsibility to change anything about me because, hey, I'm perfect just the way I am. Like, that is not a kind of person that is fun to be around. Okay, that's a kind of person that you try not to be around because they're insufferable, because they're always blaming other people for the messes in their life, or acting like the messes aren't really messes. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's another thing. We are saying that messes aren't messes, like, and we're not calling a spade a spade. That's another thing. That's another way that ideology takes you down, is because, like, okay, there's some really messed up stuff about my life. I'm physically unhealthy. My emotional health is a wreck. I'm not making much money. All this stuff. Like, I'm not serving anybody at all. My generosity is next to zero. And then we're like, but it's all fine. It's not really a mess. I'm great the way I am. Like that. Oh, I don't know, guys. That will get you nowhere good, because then what that does is, if you buy that narrative, suddenly your conscience goes into silent mode. Okay, and your conscience is what's kind of making you a better person. Okay, the Bible talks about the Holy Spirit convicting of sin. Okay, if you don't have that conviction of sin as a believer, if you shut that down, or you try to squelch that, or you try to, I don't know, ignore it, like the prompting of the Holy Spirit, like Jonah and the whale or something, if you're shutting that down or running from it or minimizing it or saying, hey, it's not really a problem, I'm actually perfect the way I am, thanks for your help, I don't really need help. If you're saying that, it's like you can expect to be in the same place now, or 10 years from now, that you are in now. I mean, like, guys, you're not going to get any better at all with that attitude. Athletes, if you walk up to a professional athlete, you're like, and you say, hey, aren't you glad that you're perfect the way you are? They'll be like, what? What? Dude, I'm not perfect the way I am. I've trained hard to get to where I am, and there's still more training I need to do if I want to get any better. Okay? Like, that's the right attitude to have in life. I think.
And also that you don't make the sort of decision out of desperation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm going to pick this person because I want a person, not because I want that person.
Yeah.
Understood. That doesn't tend to be the way that it's delivered. I saw this. I went onto the child-free subreddit
It's
Oh,
a
boy.
dark place.
when
boy.
Taylor Swift got engaged.
Meltdown.
They were not happy, and there was some. I was like real impressed with most of the balance on there. There was some insane ones. One of the most insane ones was basically like, I can't believe that she would get into a relationship with that monster, that animal, like referring, because it made me the way that he presents or what they
Yeah.
think about his politics or whatever it might be. But yeah, people, in the same way as Adele's weight loss was a threat to the body positivity community, Taylor Swift's engagement was a threat to the child-free community.
Oh, it absolutely was. And the fact that now all these things are coming out saying, oh, they're going to get married relatively quickly. Allegedly, they want to start a family. That's really important. But I also think,
I think most people do celebrate engagements. If I'm being honest, I think most people do. Like, if you go on Facebook and post you're engaged, like, literally 100% of the comments that I see are positive. They're like, congratulations. Um, Now, I think it's what people say in private that casts a bit of a better reflection. Um, and I do know for a fact that when I got engaged, not all of the private comments were positive. So I will say that is a problem that I think we need to address. Like when you get engaged online, it's all positivity. But then in private, when you're talking to people, even people that care about you, that might have a different opinion than you on getting married young, a lot of their comments are going to be more critical and calling into question your wisdom in making the choice that you did. And that's where I think, and then that's where I think you actually need to have the conversation. It's like, okay, we have different values than each other. Okay. This is actually the best, most wise, thoughtful decision I have ever made in my life. This is going to give me the best fruit that I want in my life. And the reason they're going to be so shocked to hear that is because they have different virtues. They have different values. They want different things out of life than you do. And so you can explain, but and in fact, I would give them the arguments for getting married young. Like it leads to you can have a healthy sexual relationship with a woman for the first time in your life. You can spend more time together instead of less time together, which is something that you should want if you have a good marriage, by the way. And people who have a good marriage will tell you that you want to spend more time with your partner instead of less. It's better conducive to having children because the earlier you have children, the easier it is on your health. Okay. And the easier it is to raise those children that you've had. Um, all these reasons, like you have somebody to go through the difficult times of life with instead of going through those difficult times by yourself. Like, who wants to go through college by yourself? Like, what? Why, man? Why would you ever want to do that? Who wants to go through like buying your first house by yourself? Who wants to save up money by yourself? But here's the financial argument. You'd literally double your income. Nobody tells you about that. If your wife works, and assuming you don't have a child outside of marriage and she's not raising a child and you're working to support them, you have two incomes, or you can have two incomes if you want it. I mean, you have total freedom. Like, guys, getting married young is awesome. There's really not that many good arguments against it. People will throw out things like the maturity argument. You're not ready yet. The brain development argument. Your prefrontal cortex isn't even fully developed. They'll throw out you need to sow your wild oats and have sexual experimentation, which again, all of these are just different values. Like you think I think that sowing wild oats is a good thing? You think I think that's a good thing? You think I want to do that? I don't want to do that. I am not interested in that lifestyle. Okay? And you could just tell them that. And then if they throw out what else? The financial argument, you could say our income's doubling. What do you mean it's a bad money idea? Our income is literally doubling. How is that a bad money idea? I have more money now than I've ever had in my life. So I don't see how that's a good argument. But they'll throw out these arguments anyway. But I just want you guys to be prepared to answer these things because people are still saying them. People are still acting like when I got married, there were still people that said, "Why are you doing that at such a young age?" And I'm like, "Why would I not do it at such a young age?" That's literally all I'm thinking. I'm thinking like, "Why would you not get married at the age I did?" Because we have different worldviews, right? We have different worldviews. Okay. That's really what it comes down to. It is not like I have no evidence, and it's not like I'm not considering, and it's not like I'm not thinking, and it's not like I'm not having wisdom, and I'm not, taking the advice and wisdom of mentors older than myself. We just have different mentors. You know, we're going two different places in life. That's what you need to tell these people. And if they get hostile, you could just say, and I would frankly rather be in the place I'm going to end up than where you've ended up. I mean, because that's really what I'm not trying to be rude here, but if they're going to be rude and like start making your decision to get married sound stupid, I'm not saying you get aggressive, like hostile with them, but you can certainly get a little bit pointed and be like, hey, do you think where you've ended up is some like enviable situation? Do you think that that's something everybody should want to do? And and you can I don't know how far to take this because like you can certainly start pointing out some undesirable qualities about somebody's life if they start taking you down this road. I don't think that's a good thing. I don't think that's what Jesus would want you to do. I don't think that's the Christian way to handle this situation. I'm just saying I'm tired of people acting like you're crazy for making these choices that I think are very, very well informed. Okay. Um, and so, yeah, I've been going for half an hour now, so I'll go ahead and stop. But let me know what you guys thought of the story about this country singer that we heard today through Brett Cooper and Chris Williamson. I would love to hear your thoughts on that story, as well as anything that I talked about talked about today that stuck out to you. Let me know what your thoughts were through the YouTube comments. Would love to hear those. It would make me feel super connected to you guys as an audience and to make this podcasting system two-way. You can also follow the Restoring Rapport podcast on Instagram and Facebook if you're interested in the content we post there as well. So thank you so much for listening today, guys, and I will talk to you next time.